So today we're looking at the front wing of the car, obviously driver's side, and we're going to take the wire brush to it, find out what's real and what's not, and then go from there. So we just started cleaning it off, and we half expected this part at the top here, but what we didn't expect is this rot here. It looks like someone's tried to put new catches to hold the strip on, the chrome strip, which has failed and caused quite a lot of rust, and then they've tried to fill it up. So we're going to cut this off now and see where we can go from there. So as you can see, we've cut that section out and we've got back to the best metal that we're going to find without scrapping the entire wing on this particular part anyway. So we're going to make a plate, two plates actually, to go in here, one for the edge and then one for the front face. We'll come back when we're looking to put it on. So it's not perfect, but it sort of lines up, and I'm sure with a bit of a few tacks put down and a bit more fabrication we might get this looking okay. And rather than the two pieces of metal, we just put a kink in the back of this to make it look like two pieces. And this is what we're faced with at the front of the wing, all around the indicator. At the bottom of the headlight there's a hole there, probably all needs to be replaced, and then this huge section here on the around the front light, the very front of the car. So cut some metal and see what we can do with this. So it looks like we had to cut a little bit more away than we thought at the headlight. We can't actually repair that part, we're going to have to remake it, and so this is all the bits that we've removed so far. So this is one of those jobs where I wish I hadn't started it, but it's one of those ones that need to be done. This took several hours to actually form. It's actually made from one piece, and we've just tacked it on because we need to fabricate a little bit of it, little bit more of it, actually, whilst it's on the car now. So that's as best as we can do on this front side. We're now working on the bit in there. We put the back ring in, and this is just the front part that just needs to be measured up and cut to size. So I've put those two bits in now, and just there's quite a bit of tidying up to do later on. So working our way around the wing, and we've looked at this section now, and we've cut this off because we believe that that has completely had it, and so we've got a couple of bits to build there. So that's now that bit back in metal, and we've already started on the lip, which we've cut off. That part's salvageable, the rest is not, so we're going to make that next. And that's the new lip put on now. Not the best job in the world, or not the neatest job in the world, but it's held on firmly. So moving on to the next part. So I've started wire brushing off all the filler and paint and everything else that's been on there, and seriously considering welding down this line, because I wasn't sure if it was visible with the strip on it, and it seems that it isn't. And then in the middle section there, obviously MG weld that line up anyway, so I'm seriously considering welding the full length of it. And that's the back edge of the wing put on now. So now that's back in metal, I'm just going to put a bit of primer on there just to stop it going rusty. So whilst rubbing off the paint and all the filler, we found this dent. So we're going to try and knock the majority of it out. Seems odd that they didn't do it, as it's in such an easy place to get to. So let's see if we can knock most of it out, if not all of it, and if we can't, we'll just have to fill over what's left. So that's the dent as best as I can remove it. Sometimes you've got to know when to quit when you're ahead, and I just put a bit of paint on there so you can see that it's pretty much gone. So today we're working on the back of the wing and removing the part that goes between the scuttle plate and the wing, and we're actually not going to refit this, so I'm sure the purists aren't going to like that, but as far as we can see, this is a bit of a rust collector. The whole wing design is a rust collector, so we want to be able to remove it regularly to be able to clear it out. That means not putting this back in. So working on this top edge still, and we've just cut this section away. Left with that. So we need to do some fabrication, make something to go in there. So that's as close as we've been able to make the new bit fit. So we're going to put some tack welds down and then see if we can get it to fit a bit better with a bit of manipulation whilst it's on there. So pretty much got it tacked on, so we're going to clean up a few of these welds and then we're going to weld it on properly. So that's now fully stitched on. Might be a few bits that need doing. Once we've cleaned this up we'll have another look and see if we need to do any more. So now that's been rubbed down and back in metal. So I've just put a paint on there to stop it going rusty, and we're moving on to the next part. So we're looking at the inner part of the bottom of the wing now and trying to judge how much we're going to cut off. I think we're going to cut straight across as well, even though part of it looks actually quite good. So we're going to cut something off and come back. So we've taken this off and this is what we need to now remake. So we've made ourselves a pair of aluminium soft jaws, and now we're just we've cut this piece and now we're starting to put the biggest fold in. So as my folding machine is only 300mm and this is a 500mm piece, we've had to sort of be a little bit inventive. I've taken a couple of teeth off the machine and used those with a G-clamp and a pair of mole grips in order to do the folds that we need to do. So a couple of bits that I just realised that I missed in the video was how to actually curve the unit, the component. And what I did is I took a piece of oak and I actually put this curve into it, which I copied from the previous part, and then literally placed the flat sheet on here, and then using a mallet just tapped it all over as you bring it across, and that actually puts the curve in. And with regards to this edge that gets curved over, this was put in a G-clamp and knocked round, and literally just move it round the curve until finally you've got the whole thing bent over. And then actually we used the shrinking machine to shrink this edge so that it sat better, because without that you might have to actually split it and weld it, because you've got a lot of material there that you're trying to make smaller. So if you haven't got a shrinking machine, it will be necessary to actually split it and weld it. So when you finally completed all that, you should have a sheet that looks very similar to the original. Not perfect, but at least it's metal and not rust. So I've now started tacking that on, and we're just going to clean these up and then actually weld it on properly. So that's pretty much stitched on now, so we're going to clean off all this and probably leave it at that, to be honest, because we know this wing is not up to much, and which is why we've done all this work and not bought the panels that you can actually buy to do it, because it probably would have cost I don't know, 50 quid or maybe slightly more. The wing just isn't worth spending that much money on. So that's now back in metal, and all we need to do is rub the rest of this paint off, look for any more damage. So we've found this small hole and have filed it bigger, and what we're going to do is we're going to try and just fill it up with weld. And that's now that hole welded up. So now we're looking at the inside of the wing and removing all the underseal to see what's good and what's bad, and then we're going to give it a good coat of hammerite. So we spent a few hours on cleaning all the underseal off this, and this looks as good as it's actually going to get. So now we're going to give it a thick coat of hammerite. So now that's been fully painted inside, and for the areas that we couldn't reach because it was brushed on, we also had a can of hammerite spray in the same colour, so we sprayed that in the areas that we couldn't actually reach. So now just got to let that go off, and then we can start looking at the outer side. That's now been coated in acid etch primer, and now the real work starts, whereupon we need to get it to look as best as it can. So after the acid etch spray, we put a couple of coats of high build primer and also a quick dusting of a light green, so you can see where all the high and low spots are, and now we're rubbing it back to obviously solid high build primer. But there are some dents that we didn't see. There are dents that we did know were there, but there were dents that we hadn't seen until now, so there's a bit of filling to do there. But it's is coming along. So that's now had its first coat of primer rubbed down, primer filler rubbed down, and we've also had to fill a few points on there as well. We're going to give it another coat now because there's still some high points that we need to deal with, and we'll come back later. So it's had another coat of primer filler, and we've just given it a light dusting of green so we can rub this down and see if there's any high or low spots after the repair work we did before. I know there's some parts that still need doing. I just want to see how much it is and how bad it is so that we can put it right. So I've now given it a couple of coats of paint. I'm not sure whether to give it another couple. We'll see how we go, but that's pretty much finished for this job anyway.